Hello and welcome to the programme. Now, the 48th Annual Molodist Film Festival has kicked off here in Kyiv. Now, this year, the festival features nearly 200 short and feature films created by Ukrainian, German, Polish, French and other world filmmakers. And now it's, in fact, one of the largest movie forums of Eastern Europe. Now, pleased to say, to talk more about the event, we are joined in the studio today by Viktor Hlon, a programme coordinator at the Molodist International Film Festival. Hi, Viktor. Thanks very much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
So I've looked at the rundown for Molodist. It looks fascinating, but I'm sure behind that programme, there's been months of work gone into it. So firstly, what's new this year about the Molodist Film Festival? What can people expect who are perhaps thinking of going?
It's the same quality, high quality of films that we have every year. So unfortunately, there are no surprises here, even though I would like to say that you have to check this or that film.
So you're saying that now because there might be surprises? That's why.
The surprises, if you go to the festival, because it is a festival, it's not just like a few films which you can talk more extensively about, right? But the festival is a thing that you have to just go and see several films, and one of them you will like more than another because every viewer is a different person. And we are, as a programmers, we are more interested in the feedback which people will have after seeing different films. So, same quality as always. I mean,
and it must have been kind of difficult for you because although it sounds quite glamorous, sitting watching hundreds of films, or at least samples of hundreds of films, it must be quite difficult. Don't you get sort of a blur in between sort of which films you've watched because there's so many different themes?
Definitely.
That sort of thing. So how do you select them? Is it sort of intuition almost, or do you have a criteria apart from the rules of the competition?
Well, first of all, of course, we have to check films that have won at other festivals, not necessarily just Cannes and Berlin, like the most famous one in the world, but there are a couple of dozen film festivals that we pay attention, keeping an eye on. But yeah, as for the rest, generally we just think about them intuitively, and as you said, that some films get mixed in one blur afterwards. So if that happened, most likely it signifies the film was probably not that great, you know. So this is one of the criteria that we have.
It doesn't get mixed up in your mind.
Yes,
almost.
if the few weeks pass and we still remember that film, you're like, do you remember that one? It was kind of good. Yeah, I still think about it. So yeah,
I have this with TV series actually, because I watch some TV series and even a week after, I was thinking to myself, what was that? What was the name of that series? I can't even remember.
Yes. One of the series I just stopped watching because the season had ended and I couldn't remember which one was that, so I didn't pick up. Yeah.
And also, what's interesting is that you have different categories as well.
Of course,
so it's not just the international and the national category, but you have the Sunny Bunny category, which is the LGBTQ films.
Yes,
and that's great because I think it's the Molodist Festival was the second, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It was the second film festival in the world to introduce...
At least in Europe. I believe it could be in the world, but I'm certainly sure that after Berlin Film Festival, we had the second LGBTQ-themed program in Ukraine, like in Europe. Yeah.
And can you tell us a bit more about these different categories?
Since we feature roughly 250 films, both features and short ones. You have to give some direction to people, right? So we have like successful programs like Scandinavian Panorama, for instance, which will feature around 10 films from Scandinavian region. As well, this year we are premiering our new program, which is Midnight Special. It is risky films we screen at night.
What do you mean by risky films?
It's either horror or maybe some sexual content involved in it, but it's not. It's very artistically and interestingly done. It's not just a flick that you can watch with a popcorn usually.
And your parents probably.
Yeah, but so Midnight Special is one I will recommend definitely because this is the first time that we made this program, and there is reason for that. of course, we have the traditional programs like Festival of Festivals, where winners of other festivals go, like the films that were featured at San Sebastian, Berlin, and Locarno, and Karlovy Vary, and so on and so forth. And I personally am responsible more for national competition, more than for the other programs, because some of my colleagues, we focus on certain programs, right? So yeah, my focus is on national competition. And that one, of course, I invite you to see some Ukrainian short films as well.
Yeah, well, there's some really interesting films in the national competition as well. And I think what strikes me the most is that they're on different themes. There's so many different themes that relate to Ukraine. We talk about sort of the war, decommunization, and what's good is perhaps the international and foreign jury members who come in, they actually learn more, probably.
Yeah, yes. That's definitely the case, even though it is not the priority of ours. The priority is always art, but if it happened to bring more knowledge about our country, our region, it is the plus, because usually even filmmakers, they do they keep it in mind that if I make the film on like the topic of war in Ukraine, obviously it will have to be screened in Ukraine and around those countries. Yeah.
And I actually read a very interesting analysis about Ukrainian cinema recently, and it was about the fact that before, perhaps a few years ago, filmmakers, when they used to get either grants from the state or they were independent filmmakers, they used to almost make films more for themselves. They had an idea of what theory was right, what theory was wrong, and they'd sort of make it this way. But now these Ukrainian independent filmmakers are considering more what the audience want to see and perhaps how the audience see it and sort of the culture and this sort of thing. Is that a fair comment, do you think?
I would say that in the past few years, more and more Ukrainian directors learn to communicate with the audience, because before that it was either the desire just to make a film finally, because finally we have state financing, so they are happy about it, and they kept some idea for ages and they did it, but it was like too old maybe, or it was out of touch. Then the second stage was to cater to audience some things, but now I'm seeing more mature ways of just communicating, trying to get the director's thought across, and they are making it more in the way that audience can relate to that, to this communication.
And actually, do you have at the end of each film that you show at Molodist, is there some sort of way that people can give their feedback? Because I remember in the Odessa Film Festival, I think it was a couple of years ago, I went there and I remember getting a slip at the end with a pen, and you were told to give your thoughts on the film and how you'd rate it. So do you have something similar?
Yeah, we have in the main international competition, we do have that. I'm not sure why don't we do that for Ukrainian competition. Just part of tradition, I guess, but we definitely have to do that next year, I think. Because,
but the fact even that you have a Ukrainian competition is great, and I've seen the list of films. It's huge.
24, yeah.
So it's way too many to see all of them in 1 week. But does this give a sort of idea of the sort of, I don't know, how Ukrainian cinema is flourishing at the moment, you could say?
Yes, because the selection is very, films are very different one from another. I cannot hide that, it's true. You will see some high quality production things and basically one-man author also, so that's very various. You have to clear your mind before going to the show to try to accept all of that. But it's worth it.
Actually, there's one film that fascinated me, and it's in the national competition. It's a film called Donna. And just to tell our audience the story of this particular film, it's about a guy who drops his kebab on the floor, and then there's a sort of beam of light, I think, and the kebab comes to life. And I was thinking to myself in the office, how does someone come up with this idea? I mean, perhaps they would have some influence somehow. But
well, this is the thing with animation. We have 4 animated films, which are all sort of dreamlike state, I would say, or more surrealistic, but it's very acceptable for a wide audience because the images that directors, so I think it's fair to say of all 4 films, the images the directors use are quite acceptable in work more on the meme side of the, visual image. So even though there are definitely are more deep ideas hidden in those films, but it's very good that different layers of audience could relate to what they see, and even your example proves that it is true. If you got interested in this title and this description, that's great.
Exactly. And the next time I drop a sort of doner kebab on the floor, I'll be looking at it in a different way, I think.
Yes, you will have to take the picture of it.
Okay, we'll have to end it there. Thank you so much for coming into the studio today.
Thank you.
It's great to have you. Thank you. That was Viktor Hlon, Programme Coordinator at the Molodist International Film Festival. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more here on UATV.